I Choose Joy by Terry Wilder. We haven't done this in a while, but you ready? All right, because it's part of the fun. When the walls come tumbling down, I choose joy, I choose joy. When the world stops spinning round, I choose joy, I choose joy. When my heart's hard to move, when the music's lost the groove, when I have too much to prove, I choose joy, I choose joy. Joy, 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 I choose joy. Joy, 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 I choose joy. Ready? Okay. When the hate is all I see, I choose joy, I choose joy. When fear won't let me be, I choose joy, I choose joy. When betrayals and lies hide the light from my eyes, I look up to the sky and I choose joy, I choose joy. See words. Joy, 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 I choose joy. Joy, 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 I choose joy. See, the words are important. Here we go, Legion. In the moment right here, I choose joy, I choose joy. For the ones that I hold dear, I choose joy, I choose joy. To be who I might be, for the light to shine in me, for everybody to be free, I choose joy, I choose joy. Joy, 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 I choose joy. Joy, 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 I choose joy. These words are important. Words are going out safely.
All prayers that get inserted into this box are held in our heart, and we all know that God acknowledges the prayers, and through Him all things are possible. Amen. Amen.
The daily word for today is prosperity. I'm grateful for the many ways prosperity expresses in my life. My prospering thoughts find expression in my life in many ways. I enjoy an abundance of love, peace, health, and happiness, and I pause regularly each day to appreciate my many blessings. The same blessings express whenever I focus my creative thinking on my finances. No matter what my ego mind may insist, I know that I have nothing to fear. I am one with the divine mind, and fear has no place in my consciousness. I am guided quickly and easily to choices that will lead to financial prosperity in my life. In quiet moments of meditation throughout the day, I appreciate the ways in which my life has prospered now, and I call upon my gratitude to gently dissolve any sense of lack I may perceive. The point is this: the one who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and the one who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. 2 Corinthians 9:6.
Continue to quiet yourself and go inside as we say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and glory forever. Amen.
Let us move deeper. If you move to close your eyes, just feel that light that is within shine. Let the stillness take over. Quiet your personality and move from head to heart. Feel for a moment that spirit, that love that moves between us and connects us all together as one. Everyone here in this room, everyone passing by on the highway, all people in this city, this state, this nation, and this world, even this universe, all life, all are alive, all are one. All are connected by love. Feel that compassion. Let that light shine. As Spirit moves from the all-abundant, all-supplying source through your individual consciousness and out into the world. We are one. Rejuvenating each cell as it moves. Your legs and in through your trunk, through your abdomen, your chest, and your arms, your head, radiating out that flow of Spirit, cleansing, renewing, and rejuvenating body and mind. We move closer to that silence. Let us quiet ourselves and be here now together. From that calm stillness, we can open ourselves to that still small voice. We can be guided by judgment, the wisdom we have within us. We can go from a place of faith and approach the Christ within, always there. We can feel that love that connects us, that compassion that we know that we have and that we share. We pray this morning. We pray in gratitude for the understanding that is shared, and that we will take what is ours to take this morning and put it into practice in our lives. that because we are together, because we have that connection, we can move into that place no matter where we are, no matter when our time is, that we are there for one another, even if we cannot see each other in our day-to-day moments. But in each moment, we are there for each other. With gratitude, we say an inner thank you to Spirit. And we move back. And so it is. Amen. Amen. I'm going to do a little differently than what I've done in the past. I've got a slideshow. So I can do the first slide. And you notice that I brought my Bible. As I was growing up, it was an irregular moment if I didn't have that Bible with me when I went to church on Sunday. And I had an attitude towards that Bible as it being a holy thing. That it was the divinely inspired Word of God. I still believe it was divinely inspired, but in a different way. And I have a different attitude towards it now. I can read the words and know that this is a guide for me to grow spiritually. The words weren't meant to be read like you would an instruction manual for how to operate a computer. And it's funny because the computer is something that's out there. It's a mechanical device. And the instructions are step by step and they make sense to our logical mind. But when we're talking about spiritual things, and we think that we have a computer manual that's going to tell us step by step what it is that we can do to approach something that can't even be described, aren't we having a little bit of too much of an expectation? So the authors of this book were humans, divinely inspired, to help us discover our own spirituality so that we can realize Christ within in our daily moment-to-moment lives. So this morning, with that in mind, that this book is a spiritual guidebook, we're going to talk about the Transfiguration on the mountain. It's a story that's in 3 of the Gospels. All 3 synoptic Gospels have a variation of it. And I say variation because they're not exactly the same. So if we were meant to take it literally, wouldn't they have put exactly the same words in each one of the Gospels? Why would they be different? I mean, Spirit is perfect. So why wouldn't it be perfect? And it is perfect. I think that it was put differently so that we would know that we weren't to take it literally. That we were somehow supposed to read in, well, what are they really telling us? What is Matthew telling us, and Mark telling us, and Luke telling us about with these different variations, with these different words? So underneath the statue you see that, I think it double slid, and you can go back to the first one. There's the verses are in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And there's where you can find them. And I can make this slideshow available to you if you want to record it on your thumb drive, or I can email it. Maybe I can email it if you leave me your email if you're interested. So, next slide, please.
Which one? Next slide.
I'm going to need my glasses for this one.
So, I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version. The version that's in the pews there is the New International Version, and they're probably very similar. But I have the New Revised Standard up there on the screen if you're interested to follow along. So the scripture goes, 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves, and he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter says to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice, "This is my Son, the Beloved. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one with them anymore, but only Jesus. So let's break that down. Next slide, please. When it starts out, in the first part, we have Jesus the human. He takes his disciples with him, 3 of them. They go up on the mountain. He is a dazzling white light, transfigured into a dazzling white light. Moses and Elijah are there with him. The disciples suggest building dwellings for Moses, Elijah, and for Jesus. A cloud comes over the whole picture. There is a voice, seemingly from heaven, and when the cloud leaves, only Jesus is left. So what does that mean? If I just read that, it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? I might think, okay, well, this is a lesson about an aura. Jesus had this white light shining from him. It was an aura. And maybe it was. Maybe it was his aura. An aura is energy. Whatever that is, you can read lots of things about auras on the internet and books. But maybe this is a lesson about an aura, and on what level it could be. So next slide, please. Let's begin to break it down. How else can we look at this as spiritual growth? Because remember, I said this Bible is a tool for us, a manual for us to learn how to realize that Christ within in our daily lives. So, if we look at that book that Charles Fillmore wrote, there's actually 2 or 3 of them. There's the Revealing Word and the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, and they're meant to help us to read the Bible as a spiritual tool. So if we look in the Revealing Word and say, well, what is Jesus? What does it mean when they say Jesus? Jesus the man, Jesus the human, Jesus the body. Jesus is you, me. Jesus is each of us as a child of God. So this story is not about Jesus. This story is about you. It's about each of us. Because we are the manifestations of the divine on this earth. We are, in that sense, we are each Jesus. Next slide, please. So what does Jesus do? He gathers 3 of his disciples apart from the rest. The rest being that mental state that we have, our personality consciousness, our ego, all of those jumbles of thoughts that we have. He says, I'm going to take with me Peter, who represents faith. I'm going to take with me James, the brother of John, who represents judgment or wisdom, our ability to discern. So it's good judgment. Good judgment. And he takes John, who is love. Next slide. And what does he do? He goes up on a mountain. He comes to unity on the mountain. He's going inside himself from that place of headspace, from his personality to his heart, to his individuality, to that truth within that we symbolize by the Christ candle that we light every Sunday morning. Next slide, please. Should we white light? Yeah. Now what happens when he gets up on the mountain? They see him this dazzling white light. He becomes, his face shines it, his clothes radiate it. This pure white aura. Now I did a little looking around about auras on the internet so I could just have an idea of what's being taught, because I had an understanding of it. And I wanted to see, what are other people thinking about auras? And almost every website talked about colors. If you look at the picture on the right, you'll see the different colors. And they're representing the chakras, from the lowest chakra being the lowest frequency of light in red, all the way up to the crown being a very bright colored purple. And if you look at the visible spectrum, that's how the colors go there. But what is the white light? That's not one of those 7 colors, or in the spectrum in between. But white light contains all of the colors. When we shine white light into a prism, it splits, just like that image on the right. So that white light contains all the colors. Now if you're an artist, you're thinking, white's no colors at all. Black's got all the colors, right? Because when I take all the colors and I mix them together, I get a muddy black. But no. Light's a little different than that. Light, when you split white light, you get all the colors back. It's pure. So, I want to know what my aura is like. Do I have to go and pay somebody to take a photo over at the Dream Maker? Do I have to go to a psychic reader? I'll never forget the first time I went to a psychic reader. I donated my money. I had my cards read. And it was really interesting. And I think I really got something from it. But she told me that I had a dark aura. And that for a $2,500 donation, she could clean it up and make it all bright. Well, at that time, there was no way I was going to find $2,500. I quit my job. I was a touring musician making next to nothing. $2,500 just wasn't in the cards. So I did do some research. What does all this mean? What does all this mean? But the answer is right here in this verse. If you want to brighten your aura, what do you got to do? You take Peter, faith. You take John, love. And you take your wisdom. And you go to that higher place within yourself. And your aura will be bright and white and shining. It's good to pray no matter what your state of consciousness is, because it's going to raise your vibration automatically. But if you really want to go to that space, to take with you your faith, the love, the compassion, that connection that we feel for one another. Take with you that good judgment in your aura. Because remember, we're all Jesus. We're represented by the Jesus in this story. So our aura can be that bright, dazzling bright light too. Next slide. But that's not all that those disciples saw that day. That's not all that was in the story. They saw Moses and Elijah with Jesus. Now, if I was reading this literally, I'd have to say, okay, well, how did they know it was Moses? Moses was long dead before these guys came around. How did they know Moses was standing there? How did they know Elijah was standing there talking to Jesus? And I was listening to one sermon on the internet, and he said, well, they mentioned their names while they were talking to Jesus, so that's how they knew. Okay. Yeah, they had names. That's right. So that's kind of funny. But then, if we take and we look at, well, what is the metaphysical meaning? What's the spiritual meaning? Why did they put this in the story? What are we supposed to get from it that's going to help us in our spiritual growth? So I went looking, Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, because it's about the people and the places, whereas Revealing Word is about the things, the normal day-to-day things and what their meaning is. So I went to my Metaphysical Bible Dictionary and I looked up Moses. And there's a lot of stuff there. I picked out a couple of things. But I'm going to summarize it for you in case you don't want to read the screen. I'm not going to read it to you. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. When we first discover truth teachings, whether it's at Unity or whether it's at some philosophy class, or no matter the source, at some point we were just going along as normal people. The rest of the world that aren't Unitists, that aren't seekers for truth. And then we found out there was something more. There was something more out there. Well, that's kind of what Moses did when he went up on that mountain. He saw that burning bush and God gave him the law. He discovered truth teachings. He discovered the truth. And when we first find those truth teachings for ourselves, we are in the Moses moment. And we are like Moses. Next slide, please. And who else was up there with Moses? Elijah. Okay? Everyone's pretty much familiar with Moses, but maybe not so much with Elijah. Elijah was a prophet. He was talking to the king of Israel at that time, Ahab, who had married a woman named Jezebel. And you probably heard that name because it's used commonly to speak about someone as a temptress. A Jezebel, someone who tempts someone into something that is not good for them. Okay, so Elijah was letting people know the truth. He was professing the truth, prophesying about it, especially to the king in these cases. In fact, at one point, in order to prove the truth, he had sacrifices put on these different altars, and he soaked them in water. The priests of Baal, B-A-A-L, Baal, were challenged to light these sacrifices on fire. Oh, wait a minute. The only one that was soaked in water was his altar. The other ones weren't even soaked in water, but they couldn't light them on fire with their faith, with everything. He didn't give them matches. And they couldn't do it. So he said, well, soak mine down in water. I mean, it was puddled all around it. He called on spirit, and not only did it burn up his sacrifice, it burned up all the sacrifices around, and the priests of Baal. So that was quite a demonstration. So Elijah represents when we begin to demonstrate the true principles in our own lives. However small, we don't have to necessarily burn up all the sacrifices and the priests. All we need is for that red light to be green when we come through, or that parking space to be open, or for that new job, or for, just a good feeling in the morning. Just a feeling of when I wake up, it's so good to be. Thank you. So, we've probably all experienced both of those stages. The Moses stage when we first discovered truth. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And you keep coming back, so you must have some sort of a realization that it works in your life. So we've experienced Elijah. Next slide. Oh, it's already there. Tabernacle. So a tabernacle is another word for dwelling in the Bible. But the symbol, if you look up the symbols, a tabernacle is going to have more meat to it than the word dwelling. So this is one I do want to read, okay, because it's short. Setting up of the tabernacle means establishing a new state of consciousness. Man builds his own mind, his character, and his body. God furnishes the design. So they were saying, well, let's build us a tabernacle to Moses. Let's build us a tabernacle to Elijah. And let's build one to Jesus. Next slide. Then a cloud comes over and I can't see anything. It's blank. What does it say for cloud? The presence of the mind of God in spiritual visibility, which comes to us when we have dropped all formal religious exercises and are resting in the very consciousness of deity. So what does that mean? We've given up our dogma. We have discovered truth for ourselves. We have seen it demonstrated. And we realize the Christ within in a very real, meaningful way to ourselves. Next slide, please. So there's a voice that says, my beloved. Listen to him. The cloud lifts, and who's standing there? Just Jesus. So we don't have to build a tabernacle of Moses and to Elijah. We don't have to identify ourselves with those states, because what do we have? We have the Christ within. We have the Christ candle lit to symbolize that Christ within each of us. And that is all we need. Yes, there are still going to be moments when we learn about true principles. Yes, we're still going to have these moments where we demonstrate and we get really excited about it and just want to share it with everybody. But we don't have to build a tabernacle or identify ourselves with that state either. We identify with the Christ, the one Christ within us, who has always been there and always will be there, even if we can't see it for ourselves. Next slide. Thank you so much for listening. I will thank you especially for allowing me to be up here this morning. And I hope you will want me back. Those quotes came from 3 different places: the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, The Revealing Word, and Atom Smashing Power of the Mind, all by Charles Fillmore. And again, thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. That was a great talk. Thank you for sharing. We're going to go ahead and stand up and sing the song, Reach Out and Touch by Charles Brown.
Charlie Brown?
Yeah, no, not that Charles Brown. Charles F. Brown.
Charles F. Brown. Yeah, yes, we would have said Charles.
Yes, that's right. There you go. All right, here we go. Make sure it's the right one. Okay. All right, just make sure it's the right words. Reach out and touch a soul that is hungry. Reach out and touch a spirit in despair. Reach out and touch a life torn and dirty. A man who If you dare, reach out and give your love to the loveless. Reach out and make a home for the homeless. Reach out and shed God's light in the darkness. Reach out and let the smile of God touch through. Deep breath and have a seat, please. And we're going to go ahead and have again special. This is Dean Isley, in case you don't know him. He's one of our lovely in-house members, and he gave a beautiful talk this morning. He's also going to share one of his own songs. So
I am. It's one you've probably heard before.
That's okay.
It's been a while. When I first discovered the Nag Hammadi Library, which is a collection of books that were discovered in Egypt in 1949, they were considered heretical when they were buried in a jar in the desert. There's 13 codices and several books that are in each codex. Codex is just another way of saying book. Instead of scrolls, they put in codex. And I was on the internet and I found them there for free, and they're still there under the Gnostic Library. One of them really struck me. It was called Trimorphic Protennoia. And the words just spoke to me, and I heard them as music. So I pulled words out of that book and put them to music, and that's what I'll be playing today. But I want to explain what Protennoia means, because I'm going to say it several times throughout the song. Protennoia is a Coptic word for first thought. First thought. So, like, go into Genesis and I'm spelling this.
It's the heat.
It's the heater, okay, yeah, because it hasn't been on. Thank you. First thought. God said, let there be light. That was a first thought. Whatever those words were. We say word, because we don't really know, but it could be, let there be light. So that's what first thought means. It means that which sparked creation and continues through the emanation through us. Through us, because we are the divine expression in this world. Remember, that's what Jesus meant in the sermon. Okay, so let's move into a more prayerful position in our minds. the earth. I dwell within the silence that surrounds every one of them. Protennoia, Protennoia. And it is a hidden voice that dwells within me, within thee, within me, within thee.